I'm Erin, I'm 19. I'm currently going to university doing part-time study in psychology and education, and I'm also doing part-time work and volunteering. Most of it is like the physical symptoms of anxiety, you know, like headaches, heart palpitations, like upset stomach, excessive sweating sometimes, which is gross, but it is a symptom. Fidgeting, being really irritable, like so many things. And that's the main part of anxiety for me, is the physical symptoms, because like the thoughts in your mind, I feel like, are easier to manage and easier to hide if you know, that's what you want to do. But physical symptoms makes it really hard to be able to actually go out and do stuff. You know, it's like going up a hill, you're out of breath halfway through and then you just look really unfit, and then your anxiety is like, oh my gosh, I look really unfit, everyone's going to be looking at me. So it just makes everything like a whole lot worse. I volunteer under a group called Buddies Peer Support, and it's basically for people who have lived experience of mental health to go into the local mental health wards and addiction wards and talk to people in there. And I don't feel like it's on us to do anything specifically for them. If they have a particular concern or they say something that's really concerning to us, we can bring it up with their nurses for them. It's more so on us to help bridge a gap where nothing is there for them. And most of the time, you don't even talk about mental health. Most of the time, you bring in a packet of biscuits. You ask someone how their day is. You know, we might cook a nice meal for them, which is great because everyone's sick of hospital food. You know, it's more about kind of bridging that gap and helping normalize things and bringing them back to a sense of community. So there's a whole bunch of people from different walks of life that you wouldn't necessarily consider, especially me as a young person. I've never really thought about, you know, adults or elderly people who have mental health issues and what that would be like for them. So it is a real eye-opener for me, especially because I do want to maybe work in the mental health sector one day. It's nice seeing everyone's experiences and also seeing how they grow while you're in there. Yeah. So one of the biggest events of my mental health has been where it started. So when I was about 12 years old, I kind of got into my first major relationship. It lasted probably about 3 years, and that wasn't because it was a good one, it was pretty much because I couldn't get out of it. Because the partner I was with, whether or not he knew he was doing it, or if he wanted to, he was quite abusive, especially emotionally. But at the time, I really couldn't see it. And I couldn't see it for probably about 2 years when I was in that relationship. But it was kind of the whole reason my mental health really kicked off. For the first couple months, it was actually like really nice. Pretty much just like a good friendship, you know. And then after that, it kind of went downhill from there. He started getting like really controlling. We started having like fights a lot, and I'm really not like a fighting person, so it was mostly just him yelling at me and me just being like upset. And that happened almost every night. I wasn't allowed to get off the phone until it was like resolved, even though I didn't really do anything, but he would get upset with it, like everything I did. Kind of thought like, everyone talks about, you know, when you're married you fight, when you're in a relationship you fight, so I thought it was normal. I blocked him from seeing if I was active on Facebook, but then he caught me out because he said, it says you've been active 1 minute ago for like 10 minutes, and I know that that means you've blocked me. I denied it, and like I couldn't figure out how to change it back on my phone, and so he made me give him my password to go on my phone and check it, and then obviously he found out. He got really angry at me. That kind of stuff. It just got like really, really controlling, like every single thing I did. I couldn't hang out with anyone, and if I did hang out with anyone, I had to text them the whole time because we were arguing all the time. And I just don't really get in fights with people. Like I've never even like really fought with my parents that much or anything like that. And it's just like him yelling at me crying the whole time. I kind of, from that I started self-harming because I didn't know any other way to cope with it. And then like if he saw that I had been self-harming, then he would get mad at me. So it's like a vicious cycle that just kept going. And I had like no way to get out of it, especially because I was like cut off from my friends basically. And it's like, I don't know if he did it intentionally or not, because he was like 14, 13. I mean, I don't want to say that he's a horrible person, but like to me, he's like the worst person I've ever met in my life. And it's like no one knew what was going on because I wasn't letting anyone in. And like I didn't even know it was bad, you know? And like at that time, especially with like social media and like Tumblr becoming a thing, you see a lot of people talking about depression and self-harm because it was like an outlet for people. Seeing that as a kid, I was like, oh, that just means it's like normal. It's just like, oh yeah, that's just what everyone says. Like, it's fine to say that you're gonna kill yourself if someone leaves you know? But that's like the worst thing you can say to anyone. Because I wouldn't have killed myself if he left me. But I said that I would have because he said that he would, and then it was an expectation, so I would say it back. It's kind of just like saying I love you. Like, that's what it was like. Eventually, like, I just couldn't handle it anymore. So for like the last year that we were together, I just tried to be like a terrible person to him and tried to like cut him off and stuff like that, and like pretty much just be like a really bad girlfriend, a really bad partner until he left me. Because if I left him, then he would like, you know, I don't know what would happen. But if he left me, then that's his choice. I can't believe it was like 3 years because I can only remember like so much about what happened. Like I remember like the first part and then fighting and then maybe like a couple key events, but like I feel like it's something to do with like obviously the trauma and then forgetting stuff on purpose because we would fight, so I'd just like block it out. And then now I forget stuff like all the time. Although my experience was really bad and I don't want anyone else to go through that, you know, me going through that actually made me a better person in the end because I've taken it for what it was and I've acknowledged it and I've put it behind me and put like going forward, I can actually use that experience to help other people. I've mostly managed it by like building up my support network, you know, having like close friends, and like actually only like very recently I've kind of started to talk about it more. Like for so long, I just kind of wanted like, I just wish that I could change the past, you know? But like, I've really come to terms with the fact that like I can't change it, and if there was a chance that I would change it, I don't know if I would, because I've become the person that I have today and I've been able to help so many other people because I've gone through that, you know? So in a way I've kind of rationaled it and thought like that I've come out a better person and that he's probably still like a terrible person, you know? And it's kind of just thinking that like, that you're stronger than what's happened to you, you know? Like you're not your experiences, you're not your mental health, you're your own person, and kind of like developing my own personality really, because I had nothing. Like I didn't even really feel like I had a personality. So developing myself and growing myself and taking moments of self-care. Like if I don't want to talk to people, I don't talk to people, you know? Like you don't have to go out every day, you don't have to accept every invitation, you don't have to do anything for anyone else because you're your own person and you deserve whatever you want to have, pretty much, yeah. Inspirational. Everyone's got good days and bad days, and you know, with mental health that's just amplified, you know? So I can go out, I'll hang out with a friend and I'll be able to ignore it for a couple of hours, and then when I come home I might not be able to. And just knowing that that's okay, it's making those little differences and building up and having goals, even if they're really far away or even if they're really short, like small ones in between or long ones far away, whatever suits you, sticking to them and knowing why you want those goals is a big thing in how I want to like deal with my mental health. But healing for me is mostly about taking time. So if that's taking time to relax, taking time to finish your assignments, taking time to go meet up with friends, it's just taking time to focus on just one thing, you know, and knowing that although you have a whole bunch of other stuff going on, I feel like learning about yourself and taking time to care for yourself is the most important thing.
Thank you so much.
No worries.